Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I think this is a monumental book that was written in the 1930s that I think if everybody had the knowledge that is in this book and actually worked with the knowledge that was in this book, it would be generational to the world. And so I'm going to bring you guys this book page by page. Every chapter of this book mentions the money-making secret that has made fortunes for over 500 exceedingly wealthy people whom I have carefully analyzed over a long period of years. The secret was brought to my attention more than a quarter of a century ago by Andrew Carnegie. The canny, lovable old Scotsman carelessly tossed it into my mind when I was but a boy. Then he sat back in his chair with a merry twinkle in his eyes and watched carefully to see if I had brains enough to understand the full significance of what he had said to me. When he saw that I had grasped the idea, he asked if I would be willing to spend 20 years or more preparing myself to take it to the world, to men and women who, without the secret, might go through life as failures. I said I would, and Mr. Carnegie's cooperation, I have kept my secret. This book contains the secret, which has been put to a practical test by thousands of people from almost every walk of life. It was Mr. Carnegie's idea that this magic formula, which gave him a stupendous fortune, ought to be placed within the reach of people who do not have the time to investigate how to make money. He hoped that I might test and demonstrate the soundness of the formula through the experience of men and women in every calling. He believed the formula should be taught in all schools and colleges, and expressed the opinions that if it were properly taught, it would so revolutionize the entire education system that the time spent in schools could be reduced to less than half. His experience with Charles M. Schwab, see page 58, we'll get there, and other young men of Mr. Schwab's type convinced Mr. Carnegie that much of what is taught in schools is of no value whatsoever in connection with the business of earning or living or accumulating riches. He arrived at the decision, having taken into his business one young man after another, which with little schooling and developed in them rare leadership by coaching them in the uses of this formula. Sounds pretty intriguing, right? Like, all right, come on now. In the chapter on faith, you will read the astounding story of how formula was applied to the organization of a giant United States Steel Corporation. It was conceived and carried out by one of the young men through whom Mr. Carnegie proved that his formula will work for all who are ready for it. This single application of the secret by the young man Charles M. Schwab made him a huge fortune in both money and opportunity. Roughly speaking, this particular application of the formula was worth $600 million. These facts, and they are facts well known to almost everyone who knew Mr. Carnegie, gave you a fair idea of what the reading of this book may bring to you, provided you know what you want. Even before it had undergone 20 years of practical testing, the secret was passed on to more than 100,000 men and women who have used it for their personal benefits, as Mr. Carnegie planned that they should. Some have made fortunes with it, others have used it successfully in creating harmony in their homes. The secret to which I refer to has been mentioned no fewer than 100 times throughout this book. It has not been directly named, for it seems to work more successfully when it is merely uncovered and left in sight, where those who are ready and searching for it may pick it up. That is why Mr. Carnegie tossed it to me so quietly, without giving me a specific name. If you are ready to put it to use, you will recognize the secret at least once in every chapter. I wish I could tell you how you will know if you are ready, but that would deprive you of much of the benefit you will receive when you make the discovery in your own way. Like, this book it's intense, guys. It's got a lot of good information. It's got a lot of good knowledge in here, and it will change you. While the book was being written, my own son, who was then finishing the last year of his college work, picked up the manuscript of chapter 2, read it, and discovered the secret for himself. He used the information so effectively that he went directly into a responsible position at the starting salary greater than the average man ever earns. His story has been briefly described in chapter 2. When you read it, perhaps you will dismiss any feeling you may have had at the beginning of the book that it promised too much, and two, if you have ever been discouraged, if you have had difficulties to surmount which took the very soul out of you, if you have tried and failed, if you were ever handicapped by illness or physical affliction, this story of my son's discovery and use of the Carnegie formula may prove to be the oasis of the desert of lost hope for which you have been searching. The secret was extensive, used by President Woodrow Wilson during World War I. It was passed on to every soldier who fought in the war, carefully wrapped in the training received before going to the front. President Wilson told me it was a strong factor in raising the funds needed for the war. Early in the 20th century, Manuel L. Quezon, the resident commissioner of the Philippine Islands, was inspired by the secret to gain freedom for his people and went on to lead them as its first president. A peculiar thing about this secret is that those who acquire it and use it find themselves literally swept onto success, but with little effort, and they never again submit to failure. If you doubt this, study the names and records of those who have used it, wherever they have been mentioned, and be convinced there is no such thing as something for nothing. The secret to which I refer cannot be had without a price. Although the price is far less than its value, those who are not intentionally searching for it cannot have it at any price. It cannot be given away, it cannot be purchased for money, because it comes in two parts. One part is already in possession of those who are ready for it. The secret serves equally well all who are ready for it. Education has nothing to do with it. Long before I was born, the secret had found its way into the possession of Thomas A. Edison, and he used it so intelligently that he became the world's leading inventor. Although he had had 3 months of schooling, the secret was passed on to a business associate of Mr. Edison's. He used it so effectively, although he was then making only $12,000 a year, he accumulated a great fortune and retired from active business while still a young man. You will find his story at the beginning of the first chapter. It should convince you that riches are not beyond your reach, that you can still be with what you want to be, that money, fame, recognition, happiness can be had by all who are ready and determined to have these blessings. How do I know these things? You should have the answer before you finish this book. You may find it in the very first chapter or on the very last page. While I was performing the 20-year task of research, which I had undertaken at Mr. Carnegie's request, I analyzed hundreds of well-known men, many of whom admitted that they had accumulated their vast fortunes through the aid of the Carnegie secret. Among those men were Henry Ford, Theodore Roosevelt, William Wrigley, John Wanamaker, James J. Hill, Wilbur Wright, William Jennings Bryan, Woodrow Wilson, William Howard Taft, Albert H. Gary, King Gillette, Alexander Graham Bell, John D. Rockefeller, Thomas A. Edison, F. W. Woolworth, Clarence Darrow. Like 4 of those or 5 of those was Graham a president? Graham, I think he was a general. Was he a president? I don't think he was a president. Roosevelt, Wilson, and Taft were presidents. Anyways, that's they use this. They admitted to using it. Like, hey, but this is what made it happen for me. This secret. These names represent but a small fraction of the hundreds of well-known Americans whose achievements financially and otherwise prove that those who understand and apply the Carnegie secret